Hello, welcome. This is the FM drum machine walkthrough on the Digitone 2 by me. So I just kind of wanted to go through like I did with the FM tone already, and I will with the others as well. Just go through all of the parameters, kind of like, because I like read the manuals and I get really in depth with this stuff. So I'm going to try to explain the more nuanced stuff about how this stuff works if you're interested in that. You don't necessarily always have to interact with this stuff to that level, but it helps to know how it works. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more concise because I tend to ramble, but these are a bunch of sounds made all with the FM tone. They are presets that come with it that I just loaded into a kit. So like you got kicks, but then you can also make percussive things despite the name. It's like this is a pad to pad. So just keep in mind that it's not just for drums, even though it definitely leans towards that. So we'll just go to a basic one here. And so just to go over the parameters, so tuning will tune. This is basically tuning operator C. So FM drum is similar to FM tone, but it is has some things that it doesn't, and vice versa. And it is leaning more towards the sound right at the start and then fading off, and that's more useful for percussive things. But there's some characters that it has that make it interesting to use in general. But so like FM tone doesn't have a general tuning knob. It's more about tuning each of the operators, and then you tune C and it kind of picks it. But this isn't for FM tone, so I'm not going to keep talking about it, but I have a video on that if you need to watch it. So this can basically be thought of tuning C, but it tunes everything. And then you have a sweep time and sweep depth, which is for a quick, basically a little envelope for the pitch, that this will determine how high it starts, and this is how long it'll take. So we have a little bomb going off here if you make it really long. And then we have an algorithm selection, which is the same as the same idea as on the FM tone, but it's a lot smaller and harder to see. And there's fewer options. One thing to note is that this has operator C, operator A, and operator B. It doesn't have operator B1 and B2. So it is a little bit more simple in that way. So these algorithms have these tiny things is like C is always at the bottom. Everything always goes through C except for on these last ones where B is by itself. So C, and it's just like the different ways that they will interact with each other and which one has feedback on it, which is another parameter. So these last three have B by itself, so keep that in mind. But yeah, basically just mostly you're thinking about which one you want to have feedback, because this has A and B separate and not modulating each other, with B having feedback. And these are very hard to see, but it's like these little tiny A, this little tiny B, and then a little tiny C. The B does not look like a B. It's A doesn't really either. C kind of looks like it, but you have very few pixels to work with here. And this has A and B kind of modulating each other, going into C, etc. Blah blah blah. Then you got the wave shape of A, B, and C over here. And so that's different from tone, because on tone it was bipolar. To the left was changing the shape of C, to the right was changing A and B. So here you can choose them both separately and just kind of have the option to make both sides tonally interesting, whereas you had to basically choose one or the other on the FM tone one. And then the feedback will usually basically add noise. It's feeding it back into itself and just making it chaotic. So this is going into A and B, and then let's say this is just doing B. So A will sound pure. If I add A in there, it won't get noise, but then B, as it gets more prominent. You can hear it's really noisy because of the feedback, whereas if I lower the feedback, you can hear that's what it sounded like before. And fold will fold everything into itself and make it really chaotic and sharp. This is really good for modulating and doing LFOs and stuff, or basically just setting the bass tone of something that, if the bass level of how crazy you want it to be. So that's enough of that. It's all fairly self-explanatory. Well, not really, but I just explained it. There you go. And then we got the envelope page here, which is similar to the envelope page on the tone, but it just has decay and end point, which is kind of like sustain as well, depending on if you have it sustaining or not. So it doesn't have an attack. So unless you have decay at 0, whereas it will start at whatever point you send the end to, decay will have it always start at the top and then decay down to the end point. So let's turn down B here so we just hear A. And let's make A a little more crazy. And then lower the endpoint completely. So it's just decay going down to 0. And so yeah, if you want a sound to continue on at a certain point, then you would want it to be above 0. Otherwise, you can have this at 0. For percussion, a lot of the times you're going to want that. Because a lot of times you don't want something to go on unless you want like a ringing from like a cymbal or something like that. But, you know, it's your sound. You do what you want. Okay, what are we doing here? Alrighty-roo. So that's that. The ratios are quite a bit different because here we got the ratios not locked to musical, like 25, 50, whatever. They smoothly go up. Like, so it's more like tuning a radio. Because with a lot of percussive things, you're going to want to find like some random crazy spot and then just like cut it off with an envelope, and then that's finding the character of the body of your percussion, and that basically has like infinite possibilities within it. But you can snap to musical things by holding funk. It'll go 25, 50, 75, 4. So that lets you do that if you want it to, and then you can push turn to go faster. Anyways, so that is that, and the modulation amount is how much basically the waveform is feeding into itself, I think, or like being folded. This is basically another wave folder just for individual things to add more harmonics and make it more noticeable. If you have this at 0, so if you have modulation at 0 or you have no decay and the endpoint is at 0, either one will result in not being able to hear anything. So you can't hear anything. You have to have some of both, otherwise you won't be able to hear anything. Because otherwise this is saying for the envelope it wants it to be at 0 and then never go anywhere, so that makes sense. And then for modulation, if it's at 0, then it's just a basic sine wave because it's not doing anything, and so it will basically just melt into nothingness and you won't hear it. So just if you're not hearing anything, make sure you got some of both of these things going on. Again, you don't have to have the endpoint up, you can have it at 0, but at least have decay going. Don't have both things at 0. And that's that. The next page is the hold and decay and phase and stuff. So these are for the body. So the body is the A, B, and C operators, all that stuff. So everything we've done so far is the body of the sound. The next page is going to be the transient and the noise, and those are the other elements that aren't part of the body. So This will be a volume level for the body, and I'll just turn up the noise here. And you'll hear when I lower the body, the noise stays at the same level. So this is used to like blend how much of the original tone you want. And I'll show you like here. Okay. So yeah, this is just to blend in the sound to the other elements. I had to cut something out there because I got into a little bit of a ramble. So you got the body, hold, and decay, which, you know, acts like any other envelope, but it's just for these elements. If you want to make a pad thing or like any kind of melody where you don't want it to just end like a drum, then you just turn this all the way up until you see a note, and then it'll be for as long as the note is held, it will do those. But keeping in mind that these envelopes still matter, so they will still end those certain waves once these envelopes end. But this is for the whole sound with all things together. So these are for modulating, or for changing the length of specific parts that you make with these, and this is for the whole. Anyways, for this we also have operator C phase, which if you remember from the tone engine, you have the ability to choose like A, B, C, etc., different options of phase reset for the wave tone, for the waveform, which is for like lining up the waves to be at the start point of the cycle of the wave so that they sound consistent every time you press it. This is just for C, but C is the main thing that everything goes through, so that is fine. But it lets you pick more specifically where in the wave you want, whereas it doesn't in the tone engine. It's just whether it start resets or not. So that can be nice to get the exact tone you want. Let's go to this for example. So this is the kick. If we have the operator C all the way at 0, you can hear it's really bassy. And as we move, the starting sound of it changes just because it's starting at a different part of the waveform. So every time it starts, it's starting there. And then all the way to the right is free, so that will mean that every time it'll just let the waveform go, so the sound will be kind of different every time you press it. That's that. These two things, noise reset and noise ring mod, are pertaining to the next page, so let's go to those first. Maybe let's clear this preset. So we got transient level and noise level. So the noise is noise. You know what noise is, I'm sure. Well, that's what noise is. Let's have it hold forever. And then actually, while I'm showing you this, I'll remove the body level. So it's just noise. So we got the noise level here for, the noise level. We got a envelope here for how long we want the hold to be. So this will be forever with the note. And this is the decay, which you know what a decay is. So this down here is the grain. So fully to the left will be like white noise, and then it'll get more grainy as you turn it, which will add some nice like character for like, if you just want something to have a bit of graininess to it, you can do that. And then let's turn the noise down, and then the transient is basically a selection of samples, different percussive samples. As you scroll through this, it'll fade between them. And you can use these to add character to everything, just to blend it into the other factors, fade it in, do whatever you want, change the level until you find something that sounds good. So the transient level is there, noise level is there. The noise, hold, and decay will affect both things. So just keep that in mind, that these also, this is a filter for the noise and transient. It'll affect both of them. And so noise reset on the previous page will be every time turn the transient off. The noise will sound exactly the same every time. Whereas if it's off, you can hear it. It's not the same. So that's just an option of, you know, when you're making your sound, decide if you want it to be consistent or not. And then we got noise ring mod. Ring mod for the noise here will basically incorporate it into, it's using C operator to ring mod the noise. So the noise will be kind of more incorporated into the rest of the sound instead of being a separate element. Best way to show you is to tune, while it's ring modded, tune this down to the lowest. Let's make the hold. So you can hear that it's vibrating like that. That's because as you tune super low, you're going to hear like the actual oscillation of the waves because it's just in really low, you know, tuning. So now that it's being ring modded, that's also affecting the noise. So like if I turn off that ring mod, you can hear, and everything will affect it because it's all going through C. So, I mean, you can even do things just with noise and have everything else turned off and use the ring mod to control the texture of that. That's a fun option to do. That's a cool, like, snare type thing. Anyways, that is basically all of the parameters there. The only other thing is to keep in mind the body, hold, and decay, and will only affect A and C when you're in these last ones. So the ones, the algorithms 5, 6, and 7, where B is by itself, the amp, hold, and decay won't affect it. So let's get it so you can hear that. And let's make it so that B doesn't continue on. No, that's not what I want to do. Let's make this short. There we go. And then you can hear B continues. A will end, A and C will end, but then B will just continue on because it's not affected here. Whereas if it's in one of the other algorithms where they're together, you can hear it'll all end because that envelope ends them. But the body level will always affect everything regardless, even if it's by itself. So body level will still control all three. And yeah, so that's that. I'm not going to go too deep into like how to make a kick, how to make a snare, how to make this, whatever, because this video would be forever long. I actually did make a longer version of this. I deleted it. It was just too much. But for like kicks, a lot of the times you want like a really low tuning, and then you're going to want a bit of sweep, and then like these basic like sine waves here, and then so like we got a little bit of an envelope with A here, but you can add a little bit of character into it like that. You got a filter that's like it's accentuating lower frequencies. So don't forget about the filter. The filter will be a very invaluable tool for making percussive elements. If you're not interacting with the filter page when you're making percussion, you're making bad percussion. most of the time. You can, sometimes there's things, but I like really overdriven kicks. They're fun, but you would need to cut it off a bit with the amp envelope. But yeah, I don't know. Just don't forget about the amp envelope. Will curtail the entire sound regardless of everything else. So that's like your, everything else is working within the amp envelope. And then your filter is, cutting off certain frequencies within that, and just like shaping the nice sound out of the block of ice. Let's see what else. So like a snare here, we got. So this I'm showing you right now. This has some body stuff selected, but look, the modulation all is 0. So basically, we're not hearing anything with the. You can hear. There's like a very, very subtle. I mean, it's not really that subtle. It's a very important character of the drum. Like you remove it, and then you just have the static sound, but. Just hear how it's a subtle tone, and that's what I'm talking about with this. Like you're finding subtle spots that just sound good once you make everything short. So, like if we remove the noise, there's actually not very much noise in here because it's actually mostly transient. So like these transients are very useful because. Like, it's not like, it sounds cheap because you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of samples, but you're using those to incorporate into the sound just like any other element, and then you're morphing everything, so it's not going to sound the same just because someone else used the same transient as you. So, yeah, definitely make sure you're using those. Yeah. This is not the drum. We just got a little hat thing here. So tons of feedback. Feedback for hats often will help you out a lot. High ratios will be more metallic. Oh, one other thing I didn't mention is that these ratios on this will go much higher, and I think lower than the tune thing. So that is one other thing to keep in mind. I think these only go to 16 on tune, but they can go up to 31 here. So there's that. Let's just skip to these melodic ones to not make this forever. We got, this is a preset called Haze Rise, comes with it. And so you can see there's no decay on it. They have just like an endpoint. And let's see what this one's doing. I think some of these might be modulated. Sorry. Yes, the end point of B is being modulated with an LFO. The noise level is being modulated, and the multimode type is being modulated. Type is a fun thing to modulate because it'll cut out all of the low frequencies and all of the high frequencies on like a pulsing thing, which is nice. It just adds a nice shifting character to things. Yes. So you can see it makes a very nice pad, even though I just destroyed it. This is a different one called Blue Signs. So you just want to have like your amp envelope set up long enough. You don't, because if you have it short, then it's just going to be like a percussive thing. So make sure that, always don't forget about this page. You got some movement on the filter page, and he's got the body hold is at 0. Interesting. Okay, I don't fully know what's going on in this one, but that's okay. This is not my patch. Interesting. So you can see this is definitely not just for percussion. And then this is one that I did make. But you know what? I made it a while ago, so I don't even have a lot of insights here. So I got a bit of sweep, some feedback, some fold. And I got this tone in A. Yeah, it's thick. I have it set to decay at the start, so it just kind of adds. Wow. This is really nice, just moving the end levels of A and B. So you can find a sweet spot with those where you're able to perform with those, or you can have them on LFOs, modulating around, or parameter lock things. Or if you have like an external controller or something, you can slide those, have them as set as mod destinations in here. Yeah, that's all the body. So I do have some noise in there, adding some graininess. And there's even a bit of transient, but I think it doesn't really do much of anything. Low pass 4 filter. A bunch of effects, of course. And I got the Syn tune set to a slight wobble. So that's very subtle. So let's see, it's at 0.12. We'll see if we raise it up even just like past 1 or 2, it's like too much. And then at 0, it's just sterile like that. But then just adding a touch. If you're new to synthesis and you haven't started doing this yet, that warble is very nice on a lot of things. Just adds some more warmth, makes it sound a little bit more like analog. It's, you know, definitely not, but it sounds a little bit more. And then we got synth wavefold is like randomized every time. But yeah, this isn't really important, just showing you the possibilities. And this is another preset called Pixelated. You can hear it has a nice percussive start to it, and that means this was probably a good machine to reach to for this sound. Yeah, because I got a nice. So if this was going on forever, it'd sound like wow. And see, that's even cool to play with. Yeah. Best parts of my videos are where I shut up and just start tweaking things. Yeah, see how much the algorithm changed the sound there? See, this is still everything going through C, but it's B going into A, going into C, and this is B going into both A and C, and A going into C. It's just, it's not something that you can mentally think about and decide what you're going to do with it, really. Or it's very difficult to, either way. But yeah, just make sure that you play with everything like that. And maybe you can get to a sound where you think it's kind of cool, but you wish it was a little bit better, and then you can go to something like that and tweak it and be like, oh wow, that one's even better, and then change it from there. Anyways, I'm not going to ramble anymore. I hope I didn't skip over anything, because I did record this once and then deleted it and recorded it again, so hopefully I didn't miss anything. But if there's any questions, just ask me down below. I'm very, very active, like, for comments, so I will say whatever I can in response to try to help you. But I mean, it's not a super complex machine, but it's less than the tone, but it is more than the wave. and definitely more than the Swarm. The Swarm is the simplest one. This is level 2 in the difficulty. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful in some way. Thanks for watching, and enjoy making some tones and sounds and crap like that. And I'm going to go drink some water. Goodbye.